So I woke up, I turned around, and I saw my body, and immediately I was terrified. I was like, holy shit, this is real. Like, this is happening right now. And then I opened my door, and there's these white, or they're not white, but ghost figures, like where they're just floating around like shadows. But they were dark figures, and I was like, those are the fucking demons.
Yeah.
What do I do? And so I... Andrew, how many fights do you think you've been in since you've been training martial arts?
I would say match fights, not street fights.
Both.
Well, let's just go with match. So I started bouncing when I was 18, and I did that on and off for about 13 years until I turned 31 and got my first fire department jobs. Within that time period, dozens of little scraps and things like that. I don't really count them as fights. As far as amateur competitions, probably somewhere between 40 and 50.
Wow.
If you add up my boxing, my kickboxing, my Muay Thai. Professionally, I've had 5 matches. I've had 3 pro Muay Thai and 2 pro mixed martial arts. I don't really count grappling tournaments and stuff like that. I've probably had another 20 matches. I've had enough to where it helped the competition nerves, but not so much that it's like hundreds like a lot of grapplers have.
Yeah. Something else we could try in the Joe Rogan podcast, like he always pushes that alpha brain stuff. I've never tried it before, and it's not his. That's just a brand that he likes and he enjoys. He says he takes alpha brain before he does any podcast. He says it just helps him think clearer.
Yeah.
That might be something that, like a supplement that we take and try, because he says it just clears your mind.
I've taken alpha brain before. I didn't notice a huge effect. I did, as a side note, I took their Shroom Tech supplement. So Shroom Tech Sport, it's like a cordyceps mushroom supplement, and that had profound, noticeable, immediate effects on my oxygen utilization. It's really an interesting supplement.
You just felt better, like more energized
wise? It felt like as I was working out, my body was oxygenating itself significantly better. I was able to run further or whatnot, and the lactic acid buildup didn't happen as much. And
like the recovery during the workout was quicker type thing?
Could you imagine if every time you breathed in, it counted as double? That's how it felt like.
Okay.
Like I was just, I want to say my endurance went up, but it seemed like what I was doing didn't take as much oxygen.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe. You have to try. It's a very powerful but noticeable effect.
I was gonna say,
and it didn't have any seemingly negative side effects or any refractory period the next day.
I'd like to try a bunch of more shroom supplements. The only mushroom supplements I've taken were, I still take them now. I have them in my room. I'll show them. But it's like for sleep. It's supposed to help with like melatonin release and help you get deep REM sleep.
Yeah.
And I've been taking those, and I've noticed since I've been taking those, I do sleep a lot better. Like, I don't wake up a lot throughout the night. Like, I'll go to sleep and I'll be out until the next morning.
I've started taking a CBN supplement, gummy. I guess it's a supplement, but CBN is a cannabinoid that's specifically for getting tired and falling asleep. Very interesting. So now that marijuana here in Texas is medicinalized or whatever, they can pinpoint what each one does. When you smoke the raw plant, you're getting dozens of different cannabinoids together that have all kinds of different effects. And depending on the ratios of whatever plant you have, it could be anywhere under the sky.
Yeah.
So I tried one the other day called CBQ, which apparently is like a very mind-sharpening type cannabinoid. And that had a very interesting effect.
Really?
Yes, with energy and focus. And it was actually in a soda that I got at a store.
Okay.
It was half CBD, half CBQ. CBD is also a cannabinoid. Most people are familiar with THC and CBD, but there's several more.
Yeah, see, I don't know anything else past that. I know THC and CBD.
And I didn't either. This is all new to me.
Yeah.
But the CBN is great for sleep. I found it significantly better than melatonin, because melatonin, we're finding out, has all kinds of negative effects with your hormonal system.
Really?
Yeah, apparently it's not good to take.
I did not know that.
Yeah, like you want to avoid melatonin supplements, even though they're very effective at what they do.
Okay.
I've noticed personally with the melatonin that in the morning I feel groggy almost till noon.
Like brain fogged type
Brain
thing?
fog, groggy, yeah. Even though I've gotten a full 8+ hours of sleep. With the CBN, the cannabinoid, I don't notice any grogginess. With the CBQ, it's only been one day. I am I haven't noticed anything today as far as brain fog or whatnot. I was told at the dispensary that they're going to start having CBQ gummies that they can do.
Yeah.
And so that might be a pretty good route as an alternative to smoking or vaping, is just to have your daytime THC, CBD, which is more of a mood, doesn't affect the brain fog. Nighttime, you have CBN, CBQ during the mornings possibly.
From the night one CBN?
Yes.
Have you noticed anything like weird with your dreams or anything? Because I know whenever I took melatonin, I used to be...
Vivid dreams, probably.
Yeah, I would say I was addicted to melatonin. Like, I was taking... I have a very addictive personality, I've noticed, because caffeine, I'm done for.
Yeah, same.
There's a TikTok I want to show you that I thought was hilarious.
One day I'll go full pure and not even do caffeine. But
Yeah.
we'll see. That's one of the hardest ones to...
Caffeine?
Yeah, because I feel like, not shit, but I feel flat
Yeah.
if I don't have it. And it
Yeah.
takes about 3 to 5 days to get over that hump
really
of
wean
waking
off
up
of it.
feeling crappy. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, whenever I was taking melatonin, I was taking like 20 milligrams a night. And my dreams were just crazy. I wouldn't necessarily say like super vivid, but just like outrageous stuff.
Yeah.
That I was dreaming, stuff that I had never dreamt of before. And I was just curious if you had the same effects and stuff with the CBN.
With the CBN, no. So what I have noticed with dreams and THC is that if I'm like smoking weed, I hate to say the term smoking weed, but almost anything with vaping or smoking, I almost have no dreams at night. And I think that's because you're getting the dream state during the day a little bit. And like during the day, your antenna raises up with the THC and you pick up on a little more subtle things. But at night, you don't get you probably are still dreaming, but for whatever reason, your brain doesn't record it.
Yeah.
And that could be because you're not going into a deep enough REM sleep, or there's some other effect that they don't know. But it's definite. And whenever I stop, the dreams usually come back very vividly for the first few days, and then it becomes normalized. Normally, I'll have dreams every night, and I'll remember my dreams every night when I wake up.
Yeah.
And some of them are obviously more vivid and intense than others. But that's the trade-off is, you want your dreams at night or do you want them during the day, I think.
Have you ever experimented with writing your dreams down or trying to remember your dreams so vividly? Because like whenever it comes to lucid dreaming or astral projection, I looked into it for a while because it was super interesting. Because Tate talks about it once. If you can remember all your dreams and keep a dream journal and write down like your last thought before you go to bed, and you can remember your dream, you can basically live a double life. Like you live your life, and then you can live a second life in your dreams. And once you get good at it, you can just pick up where you left off.
Yeah.
Whenever you go to sleep, and he's like, you can just live a double life. And that I've heard a lot of people doing that. They get really good at lucid dreaming or astro projecting, and then them being able to test things in their dream life. And if they work in their dream life, they'll apply it to their real life.
That's
it's
fascinating.
It's super interesting to think about.
Yeah.
I never kept like a dream journal, but like consciously trying to think about what I dreamt the night before. Yeah. Just to try to astro project and lucid dream or something like that.
I read a book, I can't remember the title of it, but it was about a college professor, researcher that did a whole foray into lucid dreaming where he taught all these students how to lucid dream. And they used techniques like whenever they'd walk through a door, they would touch the door jamb at the top as a way, though, when they do it in the dream world and they pass through a door, they always check and then they ask themselves, am I dreaming or is this real? Am I dreaming or is this real? And so you do that throughout the waking day, reminding yourself, am I dreaming or real? And okay, no, this is normal life. But then that habit is almost reflexive. So in the dream world, you're like, am I dreaming? Oh, I am dreaming. Oh, and lucid dream. Boom. Yeah. You woke yourself up somewhat. Mm-hmm, yeah. Another one is every time you look at your hand, you're supposed to ask, am I dreaming or awake? Dreaming or awake?
I was told to count your fingers because sometimes in dreams you'll have 6 or 7 fingers. Count your fingers. You
can look at faces and sometimes they'll be a little distorted. Another good one is in the dream world, numbers and words are always blurry and jumbled. So if you see a book and you open it up and all the words are like alien hieroglyphs, they just, that's another indication you're in the dream world versus the real world. And
another one that I've heard is in your dream world, you just bounce around from location to location. Yeah. And so if you're ever sitting there, you just think about, okay, how did I get here? Do I remember
Yeah.
Do I remember getting on a plane, getting in my car? How did I arrive here? And if you can't remember how you arrive here, then you can do those things.
Yeah.
Touch the door frame, look at your hands, and then you can become conscious and be like, okay, this is a dream.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's definitely a skill that you can train. And this college guy, this professor actually, with like very high success, was able to get these guys or these students to do it, and then they would record their dreams. And they had insane experiments. Like, for example, they had experiments where they would predict the future, recall the past, and then verify it later. They even had dream telepathy where they had two people go to bed at the same time and then plan on meeting each other in the dream world, exchanging information. And they did that, then documented, yeah, I did this, I said this, we did this.
And the other person did the same thing, had the same experience?
Yeah. It's fucking crazy.
That's
and then they
crazy.
were able to recreate anything they wanted. I want to see what it's like to be a jaguar. I want to see what it's like to be an eagle. And then they'd feel the feathers, and they'd feel the wind, and they'd feel the muscles of the cat. And just everything is the mind is the only limitation in the dream world. It's crazy, but
dream state is such an interesting concept just to look
is
into and think about. Yeah.
I
have no idea.
my hunch is that astral projection and lucid dreaming are almost one and the same.
The only difference that I can say, I've only had one experience where I've astral projected.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the difference is, so in lucid dreaming, you're like in your dream state or whatever, and then you become conscious and you can do whatever you want in your dream. But astral projection is whenever, here, I'll just tell the story about what happened whenever I did it. So I was laying in my bed, and I was listening to a guided meditation on how to astral project, and I was listening to it, and then it was like, okay, now that you're basically in the alpha state, focus on pulling your chest out of your body.
Okay.
Pulling yourself. And so in astral projection, you're still in the exact same scene, like you're in your room or whatever, but your soul or your body or whatever it is comes out of your physical body. And I remember it came out or whatever, and I was walking to my door, and I turned around, and I saw my like sleeping body on
Really?
the bed. It was terrifying. I'm not gonna lie, it was terrifying. And what scared me the most is in this guided meditations, it says whenever you come out, there's gonna be demons or whatever that you have to fight off.
Yeah, cool. That's the best part.
It was so
Practice your elbow.
Yeah, but so I woke up, I turned around, and I saw my body, and immediately I was terrified. I was like, holy shit, this is real. This is happening right now. And then I opened my door, and there's these white, or they're not white, but ghost figures, like where they're just floating around like shadows.
Yeah.
They were dark figures, and I was like, those are the fucking demons.
Yeah.
What do I do? And so I went to the side of my bed, and I got my gun. But you got to understand how weird this is, because I'm seeing my body in my room. It's real. And so I grabbed my gun, and then in my head, I'm like, okay, is this a real gun in my hand right now? If I fire this, am I firing it
Yeah, are
in
you
real
am I
life?
sleepwalking?
Yeah. And so I just took the chance and I fired it at the floor, and it was a water gun.
Ah!
It was a water gun. And so I guess that's all I needed to kill these demons or whatever. So I opened the door, and I was shooting at all these demons and stuff, and then I jumped out of my room and started plummeting down into a pit and got into a closet.
Yeah.
And then I shut the closet door because all these demons were like banging on the door trying to get me and stuff. And I was like, okay, we're just gonna, I in my head, I was like, okay, I need to get back to my room so I can protect my body from whatever these demons are.
Yeah.
So I like jumped in the air and kicked out of the closet, and I was like flying back up into the door, and then I landed on my door frame, shut the door so the demons couldn't get there, and then I went and stood over my body, got on my bed and stood over my body, and was just pointing the gun at the door, waiting for the demons or whatever they were to come in. And then I had another third person point of view where it was still me, but now I was in the corner of my room observing me over me.
Yeah.
And then
double astral projected.
it was crazy. And then like my body that was laying in bed like reached up and grabbed my leg as I was standing over it, and I could feel everything from each third perspective.
Really?
Like I was standing over the bed, and from me in the corner, I saw myself laying in the bed and then grabbing my leg, but at the same time, I felt myself grab my leg.
Yeah.
And then I just fell down onto the bed, and then I woke up.
Really?
And I was back. It was a crazy
awesome.
experience. It was a crazy experience, and I want to try to do it again, like just consciously try to astral project again. But I think that's the biggest difference between astral projection And lucid dreaming you're wherever, whatever, controlling your own thing. But astral projection is like you're in your same scene.
Yeah.
But you're just like, it's like more of just like an out of body experience.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
That's interesting.
Have you ever had a lucid dream or anything like that?
I've had a lot of lucid dreams, yeah.
Really?
A lot of times, like, I'll be able to fly. And it's weird. It's like there's a whole set of skills in the dream world that as you're in there more, it's very similar to psychedelics. Controlling movement with your mind. Like you'll look at a place and then move there versus take steps and then flying. I've had a lot of dreams where I'm flying and then I realize it's a dream and I'm flying and I start sinking or trying to swim and it doesn't work. Then as soon as you shift your unconscious just a hair to where you're not focused on the disbelief of the extraordinary what's going on, you just go with it. And it's I think that's what all these psychedelic shamans in these villages and stuff would do is they know how to navigate this dream world, this psychedelic world, astral projection world, and they know how to move and navigate. And you can't get too excited or you wake yourself up, but you have to stay still observant and aware. It's a very interesting limbo of your brain that's hard to describe. It's like adjusting dials in your brain to be able to move around and navigate. So what I do personally is I meditate as I'm falling asleep. I'll lay in bed, and I think it helps, one, fall asleep a little bit faster. And if you don't, then you just, boom, you astral project. You have a vision or something. But normally it's like you'll just meditate till you fall asleep. But that's also actually supposed to help lucid dreaming a little bit. Yeah. To meditate as you're falling asleep. And then when you wake up, you meditate for the first 15, 20 minutes as you come out of that state. And you can also get some cool stuff in that early morning.
I don't know if it's alpha or theta state of mind, one of the two. But
I think his name is Aleister Crowley, this famous occult guy, but he's like he's basically a prophet, and everything he'd do is he would just fall asleep, and it was all in the dream world, all of his stuff. And he predicted something like, he had 10,000 predictions. He's one of these modern guys he's a British dude, that they really documented everything he did. And
really?
Yeah, and he never charged anybody. He was all for free.
But his predictions were on?
Yeah, 80% correct. There were some that were not right, but it's very high. And it was like, he said he started this when he was a kid, and interesting story.
You think it has something to do with psychedelics or mushrooms? Mushrooms are one, if there's one drug I want to try, it's mushroom.
He didn't do any drugs. He was all just intrinsic. When I was a kid, I remember I had a lot of vivid dreams, and sometimes in dreams, it was probably astral projection, but I would leave my body and then almost like a cat or a bird just run around the alleyway and stuff and see the neighborhood at night, and I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
But I never, like some people, they astral project and then they'll like, okay, now I'm going to go to the heaven realm and they'll just do crazy shit, not just like local. The CIA just confirmed recently that all their, I think it was Operation Paperclip or Stargate, whatever they were doing to like mass train or to really like train and quantify psychic phenomenon, they basically confirmed, yes, remote viewing is true. It's a real documentable thing. Remote viewing being like being able to see stuff with your mind devoid of time, space.
I saw something.
So that's just real.
Yeah.
They've confirmed like psychic stuff is real.
Do you know who Andrew Bustamante is?
No.
He has a podcast that's called like The Everyday Spy. So he was a spy for the CIA, and now his entire business is
is he the guy with the hair?
Yeah. He's super interesting.
Yeah.
I love listening to his long form content because he talks about all the espionage stuff. He can't disclose certain things, obviously, from being in the CIA, but his whole business is like giving out spy tricks to give people an unfair advantage in everyday life, and a lot of it is just psychology. It's just understanding like the human mind and psychology. Like one of the things that I heard from him that I feel like I knew but I never pieced together was the fact that in espionage or everyday life, everybody lives 3 different lives. So you have your public life, the one that you're not afraid to push out to the world. This is your personality in front of other people.
Yeah.
And then you have your private life, which is pretty much reserved for your very close inner circle, your family, your spouse, and people in that realm. It's stuff that you express to them, but you wouldn't necessarily put out in the public. And then there's your secret life, which is like your mind up here. Things that you're never going to disclose to anybody. It's just the stuff up here.
Yeah.
And they said in espionage and just everyday life, it's important to set the frames to try to break into people's secret lives. Because as soon as you
That's what we're doing with our podcast.
Yeah. Because as soon as you can break into people's secret lives and get them to trust you enough, then you can basically do whatever you want. for them specifically, just getting information like from the cartel or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like you just build trust and bonds and then get into these people's secret life so you can extract all that good information, all the treasure, all the stuff that you need from them. Yeah. It's super interesting. If you haven't looked into him, you should listen to a couple of his podcasts. He's a super cool
I've listened
dude.
to a couple. He does have some interesting stuff. Speaking about astral projection and the whole spirit realm and all this stuff, I think, so if you've ever studied chemistry, it's the building block of reality, at least the physical reality that we know of it. Okay. Like all these compounds and things are all expressed in a molecular form of atoms and chemical. I'm sure you've seen those charts where it's like NaCl, whatever, sodium chloride, whatever, and there can be like Cl2, and there'll be two atoms connected, and there's like ways they bond together and breaking the bonds. So there's tons of energy in breaking bonds, creating bonds. I think there's a similar chemistry to the spirit world that we don't really understand, a spiritual chemistry to things like reincarnation, and I think there's just so much spirit science we don't know, but it's still a scientific thing, if that makes sense. How astral projection, how remote viewing works, how channeling works, how all these things work. There's like a spiritual chemistry that has to do with like your soul and your karma.
Yeah.
I have no idea how it works. It's just a hunch, but
you should read, have you heard of the Law of Ra?
I've heard of that.
That basically dives into something like that, and it pieces together how astral projection and everything kind of works in correlation. So they say that there's different densities that you live on. And they play on the reincarnation. The first density level is plants, soil, base stuff. The second density level is animals, where they can move around. They have
no awareness.
Yeah, but they're
or
conscious. Yeah, their conscious has evolved a little bit. And then humans are on the third consciousness level, where we can express ourselves through thoughts, and we have a huge variety of emotions and stuff. And then I don't know exactly what the fourth, fifth, and sixth density level is, like what the exact names of them are, but it basically goes into once you accomplish what the universe or the spirit world wants you to accomplish at each density, then you level up to the next density.
Yeah.
And it talks about how density 5 or 6 is basically just your spirit self, and you're supposed to go back and help your lesser densities find their way or find their path through that density level so they can level up. And they add in stuff about lucid dreaming and how whenever you do that or you get like a really aha moment, that was your higher density helping you through that.
Yeah.
I've just listened to it on audiobook. There's a part 1 and a part 2, but they're both like 36 hours long.
Wow.
It's so much information to take in. That's why I can't like remember everything. Yeah. But it's something that I think you might find super interesting because it puts everything together like that.
That does sound interesting.
It's
There's
really,
a lot of
really
concept
cool.
of the higher self in a lot of religions.
Yeah.
It's like maybe it's your fifth density or whatever, brain, spirit.
I've always liked the saying, I'm a spiritual being living in a physical reality using my guidance system provided by God to do good in this world so I can find my way home. I like it because it like takes you out of yourself. It takes you out of yourself to realize like nobody knows the truth. Nobody knows the truth of anything. And it's like we could, like as small as the earth is compared to the vastness of the universe, it's like nobody knows what is actually out there or anything like that. And so I like just separating myself and being appreciative of the physical reality that we live in because we don't know what like else is out there. I don't know if any of that made sense. I'm sorry.
It does a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just interesting stuff to talk about and ponder. I like conversations like that where it just gives you stuff to think about.
I do believe that as time goes on and we advance more scientifically, we're going to start seeing how it actually corresponds to a lot of the religious stuff. They knew the truth, but they just didn't have all the details of why it's the truth, if that makes sense. Science is definitely a piece of the pie of reality. It's not the wholeness of it, because at some point, science and man's knowledge always has a limit. But as it progresses, we start to find out that all this stuff was for a reason. For example, we've been talking about water and clean water and how the human body is made up of 70, 80% water. There was a Japanese scientist who did these studies where he would videotape the molecular structure of water as he like said different things to it and played different music to it. And when he said stuff like "I love you," when good music, the structure became very geometrically sound and pretty, or just mathematically, geometrically pure. And then when you say stuff like "I hate you" and negative music, it would look all disjointed.
Yeah.
So if you extrapolate that to yourself, imagine when you have negative self-thoughts of you're a loser, you're dumb, you're never going to get it. You're changing the cellular structure of the water in your body to discontent and whatever. And when you think positive thoughts, you're like harmonizing your body. When priests bless food, the food structure has a similar change where the molecules get more geometrically sound and symmetrical, and when they don't bless it, it's jumbled and messed up.
Yeah. And see, I completely buy into all that, but I relate it to like the law of frequencies and vibrations and how, like you said.
But
like
I also grew up, we'd pray before dinner, and that was just a custom. And at the time I was like, well, that's just a silly religious thing. Why would they do that? But now we're finding out with science, no, it actually has an energetic, scientific, molecular chemistry like effect that's observable.
Yeah.
What else have we been doing that's, is prayer? They've shown that when you pray, your brain is sending electrical signals when you think. If you direct those somewhere, what does that mean? I don't know. They're proving that there's particles smaller than an atom, subatomic particles.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah. So they used to think the atom was the smallest building block, the smallest piece of atom they could observe. They're finding out that there's subatomic particles called like quarks and things like that are even less observable. And they theorize that maybe even in like empty space, there's actually like a dark matter or something that's like an actual matter that connects literally like all living things together. So so like even empty space is like matter. It's hard to fathom that.
Yeah.
But that kind of correlates to like the law of connectedness, the law of one. Like we're all really like one consciousness that's been fractionalized and whatnot.
In the law of Ra, it talks about the law of one. And
really?
Yeah, and the law of mentalism, how everything is connected.
Yeah, and now science is proving that.
Yeah.
And so as we get closer to the truth, it's very interesting. Like the truth has maybe always been there.
Yeah.
And you can understand it through these like ancient ways of like meditation and stuff. But those might actually be like the big breakthrough of science we're having is frequencies and vibration.
And what's crazy is like these books that I mentioned, like the law of Ra came out in like the 1800s.
Really?
Yeah. It wasn't too long ago, but it was long enough ago that it's like crazy how they're finding out that all the stuff they're talking about is like real.
Yeah.
The only thing that I don't like about it, I guess per se, is like the entire book is basically them interviewing a being that has been summoned into somebody's body. And that's like whenever they put that into it, that's where my brain kind of starts to disconnect a little bit and be like, is that actually real? But then you just hear the information that's coming out of this being, and that's not something that you can make
act
up
or plan.
Make up or act, and it's all recordings. Like it's on recordings, and it's like they don't stutter. There's no blank space or anything. It's just constant information.
Yeah.
And it's like there's no way you can script that.
Yeah.
I feel. And so I don't know.
I've actually been just out of intellectual curiosity looking in, like watching YouTube videos on like angels, demons, aliens, channeling, possession. What's the difference? And I've always thought it interesting that even since I was a kid, there's all these like demon possession movies and stuff like that. And I was thinking, why would a demon want to come into a human body? Doesn't that seem like a step down? Like and a friend of mine told me something interesting. He said, it's like an ant. The ant can lift 30 times its own weight. It doesn't realize it's hyper strong. It just thinks it's an ant. Humans probably have all kinds of other capabilities we don't really know we have. The demons know it. That's why they want to come into our body, because they say in the Bible, humans have a direct access to God through our soul and stuff. Like we were created in his image, which gives us a direct link. We're his favorite. Yeah. So if a demon can infiltrate and then hijack and then do all these things, like that's part of that spirit world chemistry that I think we don't know. But there's something there, right? These like demons have always been trying to possess human bodies and stuff.
And I've always hated those movies where, not hated, I don't know, it gives me an eerie feeling watching those now, especially after listening to these books and these recordings of beings being summoned for the good. But then if it can be summoned for the good, it can be summoned for
and that's usually
in that space as well.
And I've heard that like I was like, why don't? Okay, so if people do all these demon summoning rituals, all this occult stuff, almost most of these occult ceremonies are about summoning demons.
Yeah.
Creating a portal, getting the demon in, and then
Doing what with it?
asking it questions.
Yeah.
Giving it a sacrifice in exchange for power, something like that. And they said, so I thought, why don't people just summon like angels and good stuff and make a good army and just fucking reverse engineer this for? And they said the way it works is when it's like God's stuff, they don't need the man-made portals. They can just do it on their own. And through God's timing, that's when He elects. Okay, now you can interfere, you can intervene, etc. It's the demons that kind of circumvent God's wisdom and timing.
In the Law of Ra, they talk about the evil part of it, where people summon stuff for the evil and do sacrifice. They call it the Ryan's group. That's like the evil part of the beings, because they say that the Orion's group is like the evil part of it, and they have to do all these rituals and sacrifices and stuff like that because it's not pure, and so they have to do all these things in order to get access to these demons for whatever the reason may be. But whenever you're doing it out of purity and love and authenticity, then you don't have to do all these like crazy sacrifices and stuff like that. Is there any truth to it? I have no idea. It's just something interesting.
It is interesting. I think the whole laws of the occult world are interesting to me because it's like a whole nother law of reality. Yeah, that is almost you can as you piece together from this book, this book, this book, this book. You know, you have a hunch, but it's no one knows obviously textbook what does what. But you see a ton of similarities on these things. In general, what they say is God has a timing for everything, and a lot of the times you want something. But God has the right time for that. And He knows it's like it might be in 10 years. You want it in 1. Yeah. But it needs to happen in 10 because you have to go through X, Y, Z. These things have to line up, etc. Yeah. And so when you petition the occult or the demonic world, it's a way to shortcut God's timing. It's a way to, etc. But it always comes at a price. Yeah. It's not meant to. A lot of times you might lose it. You might squander it. You might, you might shift your focus to worldly stuff than God. And like. Yeah. It's really interesting.
Yeah. And we were talking a little bit earlier about nobody actually knows the truth or whatever, but that's the entire point of life is like the pursuit of truth, I guess, or whatever.
Can be for some people. I think some people have a natural truth-seeking gene in them, and they just want to know the truth, and like they don't easily buy into just the commonly held beliefs or especially if the commonly held beliefs seem a little fishy, like are you leaving something out here? Has this been edited or what's really going on here?
And I don't know, that's how I am. Like in my more private life, I'm very like into looking into all these stuff, and
I never talk about this stuff in public.
I don't either. Exactly. People are gonna think you're fucking crazy, like you're a conspiracy theorist or whatever, so I never talk about it. But I am obsessed with what I say is finding the truth. Yeah. And what pisses me off is I know I'll probably never find it.
The way it is now, it's obviously been withheld from us, or much of it has been muddied or withheld, much like the truth of how these wars start, how the deals are made. I think there's been similar withholding of information with how spirituality works. I think especially with stuff like manifestation and self-improvement, they've intentionally kept that stuff close to heart, told the public, here's the truth on like morality and etc., but not how to elevate your worldly power, without demonic. There's that stuff is very real, almost scientific.
It's like they give you enough information to make you curious, but they don't give you the right information necessarily, or they'll give you some information but leave parts out that are very important. I'm sure you've heard like the Think or Grow Rich book is like one of the big ones that anybody getting into business or whatever reads.
It's a business, and he talks about occult stuff like sexual retention. And
I have a 10th edition Think or Grow Rich book so it's been, whenever the book first came out, it was like the gold information about how to actually manifest everything that you want in your life. Yeah. And the elites took all the books off the shelf and made them rewrite it.
Really?
To change some of the information.
Wow.
My 10th edition Think or Grow Rich book has so much more information than a Think or Grow Rich book that you would buy off a shelf.
Really?
It's crazy the amount of information that they change. I'll let you read it. Yeah. The amount of information that they take away from the book in the one that's out nowadays that people could just readily buy, the amount of it's not necessarily different information, but it's more information, like things that they have just taken out of that book to keep you numb. They give you enough to make you think, but not enough to actually do what they're telling you to.
And with Freemasons and all the Knights Templar, they've done these manifestation things that now we can just read on the internet. But for the longest time, that was just behind closed doors and gate kept.
Yeah.
You had to climb these ranks before they would slowly give you the information. They say, though, when you get to the very top, then they're like, actually, we've been worshiping Lucifer this whole time. You've been worshiping Lucifer. You're too far in to quit, sorry. And that always worries me about, is this Luciferian stuff that's meant to deceive you and whatnot? Or is it just information that's been withheld? Information is not necessarily good or evil. It depends on what you do with it. Is the information of gravity a sin because it's scientific? Not necessarily. Modern religions, they're taught to never look at that stuff. Don't even go down that path.
Yeah.
But is that just because it's not in the Bible that it's Luciferian and occult? Or is it not in the Bible for other reasons?
Yeah.
Because it was maybe withheld or edited out, or I don't know. And there's another interesting phenomenon when you talk about this stuff. If you get too into it, people's bells and whistles go off like this is a crazy person. And it's a natural, almost like this person has leprosy. Like it's a natural, get away, don't. So you have to be very selective of who you talk to, what you say, how you present it.
And a lot of times I don't even know if it's like they think you're a crazy person. Like a lot of people, I think, are just intimidated by the amount of information that you have.
For sure.
That's an
because you're probably rocking several layers of beliefs at the core when you talk about stuff like this.
Yeah.
You know, that there might be aliens. It doesn't talk about aliens in the Quran, and it can be very shocking to people.
Yeah, I understand the use of specific religions to have one truth that you can hold on to and live your life by. I think you live life much happier that way.
Yeah.
If you just have one truth that you live by, but in the pursuit of truth, you have to take all the different
especially nowadays,
things.
200 years ago, you didn't have access to 30 different world religions, infinite ancient texts from wherever. All you have to go. And for hundreds of years before that, they literally only had the Bible. And the Bible was looked at as a very holy text. And it was like, that has all the answers you need. And they would just study this like theologian scholars.
Yeah.
Which isn't necessarily bad.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the chemistry of the spirit world, I don't know how much of the afterlife is based on your personal growth, your spiritual growth here, reincarnation, how that works. Yeah. Have you ever heard of David Icke? He's a really famous kind of conspiracy theorist. He's like Alex Jones in some ways, but he, for decades, has been talking about reptile aliens controlling and stuff like this. Yeah, and cult pedophilic sacrifices and stuff that now we're slowly mainstream realizing is probably not bullshit.
Yeah.
It makes you look back at his other stuff and wonder, geez, was he really onto something with ancient civilizations and this and that?
Crazy as it may be.
As crazy as it may be, it may be 50 years we go back and be like, wow, this guy was like a genius.
Yeah.
He called it way before everyone knew, but during his life, everyone thought he was a crazy guy and he died broke. And
Seems like that's what it is, no? Because Einstein was considered like a
almost every genius is considered crazy, and they're not recognized for their brilliance until posthumously after they die. Same with artists, a lot of musicians.
This is the first time I've actually thought about that, is how most people that are like praised today are people that in their time they thought they were batshit crazy.
Yeah. God, in the Roman time, was it Socrates? But I think he may have been like murdered because he said the earth was round. And that was that was a big taboo thing to say the earth wasn't flat or that the solar system didn't revolve around the earth. And yeah, we're lucky in a time where you can think outside the box and not get immediately executed, persecuted.
Yeah, yeah. You just have the cancel culture nowadays.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like there's like the truth seeker gene and the sheep gene. And the sheep gene is, okay, I have a question, I got an answer, that box is checked off, I can leave that alone.
Yeah, and they never question it again.
Never question again. Like, I bought that couch, that's the last couch I need to buy. I'm never going to think about couches again.
Yeah.
Truth seekers always like, are there better couches? Where are the other couches?
Yeah.
Why is this couch so good? Yeah, et cetera. And you're always reevaluating your beliefs, testing them, adding to them, confirming them.
Yeah, and it's so hard because my brain just jumps based on the scenario that I'm in or the situation I'm in. I'll like try to apply some truth over here, or some truth or manifestation, stoicism, the Christian religion, just based on whatever situation I'm put in. And so my mind just bounces around because it's what is the truth. You just have to take certain things and
See, I think
apply
this
them in
is
certain
the
lives.
evolution of human, and from the 3 to the 4 to the 5 to the 6 is that's a natural human process for these truth-seeking people. Is to from like 20, 30, 40, 50, you're still evolving, albeit maybe not like from what we can see with our eyes, but like your head, your belief, your connection, all these things are like formulating ideas and beliefs, and you're essentially becoming like a different, not I don't want to say a different species, but a more evolved, grown-up version of yourself.
The best analogy or whatever that I've heard, like you've heard people say, the more intelligent you are, the more like depressed or lonely or sad.
There's a direct correlation with IQ and depression and intelligence and depression.
But the best saying I've heard is once you start diving into seeking the truth and stuff like this, it's like a pair of rose-colored glasses. You put the rose-colored glasses on, you can never take them off.
Yeah.
You see the world differently completely. You can never take them off, and you can never force anybody else to put them on either.
Yeah.
So, like, it doesn't matter how much you go, like, how much you, I don't know, like this person, like this spouse, or even your family members. You can give the information to them and present it to them, but if they choose to put the rose-colored glasses on or not is not something that you can control.
That's why I really love the world of sales, of public speaking, of writing, of charm, because this is how you subtly nudge people to the truth. You don't do it harshly. You don't do it negatively. Like, you fucking stupid person.
Yeah.
Can't you see this? This was written 1,000 years ago. Blah. Then you're almost going to just immediately shut them off and make them angry at the idea.
Yeah.
But
yeah, see, I got to the point, like, I don't try to push anything on anybody. I always just portray this information. The reality transurfing book that I told you about, the Law of Raw, those CDs that I told you about. I give people the information, and then it's up to them whether or not they're going to look into it. Or
I still actually need to buy that book. I listened to the Justin Trudeau, but I need to listen to transurfing. Someone actually in the emergency podcast, one of the super chats, asked them about transurfing.
Really?
Yeah, they didn't talk about it though. But I think so. Evangelism is actually a big tenet of Christianity.
Say that again.
Evangelism.
I don't know what that is.
Evangelism just means spreading the word, spreading the gospel, spreading the truth.
Gotcha.
And ideally, if you were to say, know the truth of God and find this amazing secret that like unlocks happiness and quality life and peace and all that stuff, you should want to spread that. You shouldn't want to hide that and guard that and use it selfishly, right? And so that's a big tenet of Christianity, which I actually agree with, that you do want to spread the good word. And but that's where the art comes in, because if you do it poorly, you might have an opposite effect, right? And there's a huge art on how to do it. I believe the best way to do it is to lead by example, right? When you become a very successful person who's happy and healthy and loving family, behave kids, etc., people are going to eventually be like, what is he doing?
Yeah.
Is it the way he thinks? Is it the way, I want to, and then you're like, oh, I believe in God. Now all of a sudden, wow, maybe God's real.
Yeah.
Because, but if the homeless guy says that he's a drug addict and he's, he's like, God's real. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
He's a
maybe
superstition.
Not. Yeah. And see, I love the idea of leading by example, and like, I'm not financially secure in the place that I want to be yet, but I'm genuinely like one of the happiest people that I know.
And that's supposed to be a gift of fruits of the Spirit is like joy, contentment, things like that. And that's a way to evangelize, is just to be content and happy.
Yeah.
Like, you can lead by example in times of prosperity, which is actually pretty easy, right? Because it's easy to be happy when you have $10 million in the bank, no debt.
Yeah. But it's like, who are you when you're broke?
Yeah. Who are you when you're going through hard times? That's one of the best ways to evangelize is, a lot of bad things are happening, but I still have faith. I'm still happy. I still see beyond this temporary period. And that can also light people up to, man, look what this is doing for them.
Yeah.
So one of the things that led me to really delve back into religion and belief is meeting and training with John Jones. Really? So John Jones is the UFC champ. He's one of the best ever. And he's also one of the most mentally strong guys I've ever met when it comes to competition. He's also the son of a pastor. He believes strongly in God and stuff like that. But I remember meeting him and thinking, God, this belief is really helping him. And that kind of made me open my eyes a little bit to that. Yeah. From almost as selfish from a sports perspective.
Yeah.
Will this help me level up belief? Maybe it will. Maybe I'll reevaluate it, and then it starts down the path of investigation and truth seeking. And stuff.
But I feel like that's how it works. You're put in situations where you have the opportunity to learn something new about faith or religion or something like that, and I think God provides those opportunities to you whenever He thinks that the time is right.
And He might provide it through you from the law of attraction.
Yeah.
Like you're on this frequency, and then you start attracting another person with that frequency, and then you learn what you need to learn in that moment.
And then if it's time to move on, it's time to move on.
Yeah, but not everyone is meant to be in your life forever. Yeah. When some of the most impactful people are people that like you maybe
met once or twice.
Yeah, they just said some weird thing to you that it was a weird off-the-wall comment, but it triggered something in your head, like it confirmed something or...
Yeah.
You know, it's really interesting how the universe works.
It really is.
So Dolores Cannon, I'll keep rambling on. She's the woman I mentioned before. She's she's dead now, but she was a hypnotist. And she would hypnotize people. And then similar to like you're talking about like the voice change, the content change, like every person she could like hypnotize them into the collective consciousness and the source consciousness and ask them questions about life. And she has tons of material about how the spirit world works and how spirits work and stuff. And
what's her name? I'm Dolores Cannon. Yeah. I've never even heard that name.
You should listen to her video. She's really interesting. And her stuff is like secular in that it's religious, but it's not because it's more from like a psychological standpoint and this phenomenon of hypnotizing people into their subconscious and then talking directly to people's subconscious.
Yeah.
It's like being able to lucid dream, but by proxy.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Have you ever been hypnotized?
No.
I've always wanted to go to one because, like, I don't really buy into it. Like, I'm that person. I'm like, I don't think I could ever be hypnotized. That's just how I think. And so I'd love to go to one sometime just to see what happens.
The subconscious mind is highly linked to the spirit world somehow because the subconscious is like this ocean of stuff that we can tap into that we don't even really know at the forefront. It's not our conscious mind.
Yeah.
But it's highly powerful.
Yeah.
You know, what it can connect to, what it can do, how it can affect real world stuff.
Yeah.
Beyond just evolutionary stuff like memories and evolution and stuff like that.
Do you want to give like a closing thought or one piece of information that you want to leave to the listeners?
It's fun to seek the details of the truth and the whatnot, but the truth is out there and the truth has been shown many times again. And these ancient texts, especially these ancient holy texts, you shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There might be some finagling with them, but there's a lot of ancient wisdom there that can be applied till the end of time. And I think when you start with God first and altruism first and service to others first, you're setting yourself on the right mountain to scale up.
Yeah, I love that. If I had to give one piece, I would try to just nudge them into looking into the law of attraction and understanding that if you want to do something right now to change the way you view the world, is just start doing a little bit of gratitude every single day.
Yeah.
Being grateful that you woke up, that you have fingers, that you can see, that you can hear. Basic shit like that, because it changes, like you said, your molecular structure, your frequency in your body, the way you vibrate. It changes your entire day.
So Sadhguru, he's the yogi I listen to a lot. He's real famous right now. He says gratitude is one of the highest vibrations you can tap into. The one above that is joy and bliss.
Joy and bliss.
So gratitude is like what creates joy and bliss. So if you're living in joy and bliss, it's like already has gratitude built in, but more.
Yeah.
But yeah, the gratitude thing is huge. It's so easy to only think about what you want, what the next step is, or what you need, or what you lack. But it's hard. It's easy to forget all the stuff you've created and built. And
it is. I think it's just one of those things. It's time. It just takes time. Repeating it over and over to build a subconscious habit of it. But once you do, life just gets good.
All right. Well, thanks for listening to the Proper Thieves podcast, guys. And remember, always have the mind of a thief and the heart of a hero.